Syrian Girl, today you're going to tell us about Al-Qaeda, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, or as otherwise known as CIAda, because many believe it is just a front of the CIA, an organization that is controlled and puppeted and was created by the CIA. So we all know that in Afghanistan, during the fight against the Soviet occupation there, the CIA funded Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. We all know that that's part of history. But of late, since 2001, we are and a little bit before that, we were led to believe that Al Qaeda was a anti-American um, terrorist umbrella organization that was just basically everywhere and was all powerful and could bomb buildings, the Pentagon, hijack planes, bomb boats, etc., etc. But all the while, as a matter of fact, the Al Qaeda was always in the hands of the CIA, and for a brief time, that wasn't as obvious as it is now. Um, People who would say this were seen as conspiracy theorists, but even in the mainstream media now, we're getting reports that the Libyan rebels have a strong Al Qaeda element in them. One of the rebel leaders was, in fact, tortured in Guantanamo Bay by the CIA, obviously, and the Al Qaeda flag is currently being flown over a Libyan courthouse. So um, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's the evidence is there that America supported um, an Al Qaeda presence in Libya and to take power there.
I kind of read up on all this, and I just concur and agree with everything you've said. We had a foreign minister in England called Robin Cook, and he stood up in Parliament and said Al Qaeda is nothing but a database used by the CIA of people they can use and fund. Well,
Yes,
he died very suddenly, and some people think it was very mysterious. But he was opposed to the Iraq War. Very famous man, Robin Cook. Well, where can we go from here? Because you might be preaching to the converted, you know? I mean, so many people accept what you're saying and agree with you. It's becoming blatantly clear that NATO's best friend is Al Qaeda, you know? It's just everything's upside down.
it's more than that even. So there was a documentary in 2008 saying that it has some CIA people on record saying that Al Qaeda itself does not exist, like it's a fake organization created by a think tank. So I just want to point out that um, it's not mutually exclusive. It is fake in the sense that it's made out to be much bigger than what it is, and it's made out to be something that it's not, which is an anti-American, independent organization. Al Qaeda is crea- continuously being created by the CIA as they recruit people into it. They have cells starting up in countries, and they recruit these people into it that think they're joining it in a sort of liberation anti-American Islamic struggle, when really they're being puppeted by the CIA. I mean, the guys from Al Qaeda, the lower level pawns, so to speak, they really don't understand what's going on. To support this claim, you can go on the internet right now, or if you want specifically, go on a website called whatreallyhappened.com, and there's a cached news article there talking about Shin Bet agents in Palestine having been captured trying to start an Al Qaeda cell. So that's them calling people up saying, "Or do you want to join Al Qaeda?" So wherever Al Qaeda is, there's some Shin Bet, Mossad, or CIA agents controlling it, and it's not a new tactic. I mean, in Ireland, the MI5 and the MI6, they too used it against the Irish resistance,
Same method.
and actually, exactly, and they tried to use it to destroy the Iraqi resistance, in fact, but the Sunni resistance, they wouldn't bite. They actually clashed with Al Qaeda for many, many years. And there was this organization called the ISI, if anybody remembers that. And actually, the leaders of this ISI movement, ISI was basically Al Qaeda in Iraq. But after the leaders of the ISI were captured by the Americans, somehow, I don't know why they would do this. I can't explain it, but they said that, oh well, all along the ISI was basically something that only existed on the internet. Now, that's not to say that Al Qaeda cells did not exist in Iraq. It's just that much of the news about it was ripped off the internet. And just on the point of the news, the biggest news agency that promotes Al Qaeda as a real organization, the biggest news agency that takes their videos and plays them to people, is Al Jazeera. And now you're seeing Al Jazeera taking basically all the revolutions, almost all of the revolutions happening in the Middle East right now, and using them to gain influence over the countries. So basically, in conclusion, Al Qaeda, the CIA, and Qatar are one entity.
Sounds right. You've got some Al Qaeda cells working in Syria, coming from Lebanon and Turkey. Is that correct?
I think we're starting to see that a little bit now because the movement in Syria, I'm not going to say all of the Syrian opposition is this way, but the most powerful element currently amongst the Syrian opposition, the most heavily funded, and the one that's probably going to be the one being set up to take power, is a Islamic Salafist movement which coincides with Al Qaeda's beliefs. So, yeah, I'd say that they are Al Qaeda. If if Al Qaeda is it's not really a legitimate organization. It's just a name for some puppets, basically, that are being controlled by America.
So, do you think all the Arab world could become Al Qaeda or Muslim Brotherhood? I don't know if it's fair to combine the two in the same sentence.
It's not exactly fair because the Muslim Brotherhood are more like democratic. What do you call them? Christian Democrats. But I think that even they are being pushed more and more to the extremist Salafist side. I think the way that I see it, it seems that only the secular countries are being targeted and they're being turned into these Islamic emirates. And I think the powers that be, for some reason, they wish to see the whole Middle East being turned into theocracies, whether being run by like Wahhabi Salafists, as in Saudi Arabia, or otherwise.
I've heard it
That's
said. I've heard it said that Israel would like to see, religiously run countries all around it. I mean, also it might just be a reaction to Israel, given that Israel's waving a religious flag. Just
maybe.
food for thought.
Maybe, or you might say that this is just the Sunni Islamic states like Qatar and Saudi Arabia trying to gain influence over everything, in opposition to Iran, which is a Shia government. But maybe somebody is puppeting everybody from the outside, trying to create a huge clash between the religions. And in order to do that, you can't have any secular states being left. If you think about it, the only secular states in the Middle East is the Levant region, which is Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. And even Palestine not so much anymore because of Hamas's strong religious ticket. So the only country left with a secular stance at the moment in the whole Middle East is Syria.
It's not very fashionable right now, secularism.
No, it isn't. It seems to have been something from the 70s or 60s. But
Uh,
sorry, go ahead.
no, no, I'd like you to continue. If not,
Just
I'll.
I wanted to make one comparison. If anybody's read the book George Orwell's 1984, there's a character in that. His name is Goldstein. And by the end of the book, I'm sorry, this is a spoiler, but by the end of the book, you learn that this Goldstein character, who was supposed to be against the government and leading this insurgent terrorist organization against the government, he turns out to be a puppet of the government all along. And he was used basically, he wasn't even real, he's just an actor. And the whole organization that he was supposed to be a part of was used to get dissidents to expose themselves by attempting to join it. And one of the other interesting things about the book was Hate Minute. And this was when this Goldstein character would appear on television and talk about why you should oppose the government. And that always reminded me of the hate minute we received watching Osama bin Laden on either CNN or Al Jazeera, just clips of his speeches, and we were supposed to just sit there and raid this creature.
It's the signature of our ruling powers now to demonize certain characters. It's terrible, and you're absolutely right. It's about everybody get angry and hate somebody for a minute. What,
Yes.
what are you going to talk about next time? May I ask you in advance?
There's a few things I'd like to talk about. Obviously, the things in Syria, because I'm Syrian, are important. There's some historical things I'd like to mention as well. More war crimes about that went on in Iraq. Um, there's just so much. There's just so much to talk about.